and then maybe it's not all 10, maybe it's a certain number, but that's going to differ from team to team, how you tick that box, and then you're going to be able to earn that workout bonus.
Myles Simmons with us from Pro Football Talk. Myles, let's talk about some of these quarterback extensions that are on the way. I saw that the Ravens have at least mentioned that an extension could be on the way for Lamar Jackson. What are we talking about money-wise, and how about the timing on it?
Oh, it's a good question with the money-wise. I mean, look, I think whenever you're talking about a quarterback probably signing an extension now, most of these guys are not going to be able to get Patrick Mahomes money, right? Like Patrick Mahomes money where you're thinking about $40 million a year, it's probably out of the realm of possibility for that. So, but I think somebody like Lamar Jackson, he's still going to be in the realm of $35 to $38 million a year. That's basically the going rate for quarterbacks at this point. That's the market value. And that's kind of the thing about QBs. You sometimes if you're a team and you feel like you have one, you want to sign them earlier because that's going to have a lower market value than it would be later, right? So if you're the Ravens, if you are the Bills with Josh Allen, if you're the Browns with Baker Mayfield, part of what you have to do is weigh, do I want to sign my quarterback now before the likes of those other guys from that same draft class extend their QBs? Or do I want to wait just to make sure that I really want to extend this QB so we're not going to end up in a situation like the Philadelphia Eagles, like the Los Angeles Rams, where you sign this guy to a big extension and then it turns out you don't actually want them because they have proven that they are not going to be the effective quarterback that you thought that they were going to be when they signed that extension. So I think there's a lot of things that you have to weigh from that standpoint with the team. But I mean, if you're Lamar Jackson, if you are Baker Mayfield, if you're Josh Allen, and you're looking around and you're saying, man, I can get $38 million a year, whatever it's going to be. That's life-changing money. I probably want that. I'm going to sign on the dotted line and get my guaranteed money before anything else happens, right? Because once that happens, that money is yours, basically. It's not obviously the way NFL contracts work. You're not going to get that full value that comes out, but that guarantees, that's huge money. And that's going to be upwards of $100 million for those guys. So, yeah, I think it's going to be something that is going to be closely monitored. But at least for, right now, that probably is not going to happen until, if a contract extension is going to happen, it's probably not going to be until after the draft gets done, after OTAs sort of wrap up and that mini camp. That period between June and July after mini camps and the start of training camp, when a lot of these quarterback contracts get done because there really isn't much else to do. So that's when you can take care of that business then.
Myles Simmons, Pro Football Talk. I'm glad you mentioned the Rams because, there's the downside. You could sign a guy and then you're like, oh, crap, that was not a good signing, like Jared Goff. Are the Rams going to be clear-headed for this draft? And I know that, they trade away most of the draft at the start of it, which also makes this kind of a ridiculous investment. Have you seen the pictures of this Malibu beach house that they've turned into a draft war room? And I noticed a couple things here. One, they're very big on the sponsor mortgage company that they've got. I think they've got like something like in the pool, and then they've got pillows. This seems to be a weird deal to me, but it's very Sean McVay-like.
Okay, I don't know if it's very Sean McVay-like. I think it is very LA-like.
Okay,
and I think that it's one of those things where you want to make a splash, if you will. Look, I mean, the funny thing about the Rams is that they don't really have a permanent facility yet. And, maybe people know this, maybe people don't. I worked for the Rams covering that team from 2014 to the middle of 2019. So I know that organization well. And when they moved out there, the goal was to have a permanent facility by now. They don't. So they draft out of what is, really a temporary facility. That's where they work. And so, I mean, everybody drafted from home last year. I guess the deal is, this is probably going to be a little bit nicer than sitting in what their draft room is with a bunch of temporary buildings. And maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But it is certainly an interesting thing. I don't know, man. I saw that and I was kind of floored by it because I was like, wow, that's not something you usually see teams do. And frankly, I don't know that many teams would even like to do that because football people are such creatures of habit that they want to be in their environment that they're used to. So I guess, if it works for them, it works for them. But you're right. I mean, they don't have a first round pick. Don't pick, I think, until middle of the second round in there. So that first night they're probably just going to be sitting around eating bonbons and whatever they're doing in that house anyway.
Cannonballs into the pool. Now, I feel like you push back on me on McVay, being a style guy because he's a football guy. But I did notice, if you look at the pictures closely, listen, McVay has fabulous hair. Did he actually shave a couple of lines above his left temple? Like, I noticed things like this. Are you seeing this? Like, what is this off-season McVay? He gets a little crazy. He goes with the lines like the kids do.
I don't know if he went that far. I did see that picture. It did stand out to me too. I have not been able to confirm whether or not he did that, but I can tell you from my own personal experience that he takes his hair very seriously.
Yes.
So I don't know if he's just going gray or what, but that job is very stressful now, and he's going into, I think, his 5th year as a head coach. So it's a lot that has to happen, even if you're in your mid-30s.
JVT, you're a big hair guy. Lines in the hair ever or not?
No, I bleached my hair when I was like the rage. When I was like, what was I, like 7 or 8?
Nice.
The summer of '98 was fantastic.
Okay. Move this week, Miles, with the Raiders. They've added another piece to the defensive backfield in Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, and I tweeted that I liked it for the Raiders. And here's the thing. I think when you have two guys like Damon Arnett and Trayvon Mullen, where you think they're going to be able to progress, however, you don't know. You need insurance in some way. And I think cornerbacks in a lot of ways are like starting pitchers in baseball. You probably can't have enough of them because at some point, one of them may or may not go down, right? And if you have somebody like Rasul Douglas, who was really a key piece to that Panthers defense last year, came in and have really helped stabilize the position opposite Dante Jackson at cornerback. So I think with somebody like that, who has the attitude that he does, he's going to bring something to that locker room. And I think he also is going to be able to play. He's at least, I think, going to be able to push those two guys that were drafted pretty high, Mullen in the 2nd round and Arnett in the 1st round, to be the kind of guys that they need to be. So that's why I like the signing, man. And I think that he's going to be a decent fit for that Gus Bradley defense. So if they need to play him, they will be able to play him. And if he beats out one of those younger corners, more power to him.
So, Miles, as we approach the draft, we get all of these rumors and all of these, conversations around teams, what they're looking at, what they could potentially want to do. Arthur Blank comes out the other day, says he's fascinated by the quarterback class, even though we all are. But I was more curious, as we look at a team like the Miami Dolphins, as there seems to be some traction around them potentially trading down here from number 6. My question would kind of be like, what would be the plan if you're Miami? Like we were talking about this earlier. My thought is the only scenario in which you trade down is if like one of the Mac Jones and or Justin Fields is still sitting there. And I think it'd have to be a pretty specific person. I just don't know how many teams have the draft capital to move up that far to get to number 6. I just don't see many scenarios for Miami to actually do that and move back.
Yeah, it's interesting because Miami is obviously the type of team at this point that we know wants to pick up as many draft picks as possible. And they've done a really good job of that over the last couple of years to set themselves up to have as many darts to throw at the board as they possibly can have. So it's a matter of now, do you want to have the premium player, in theory, maybe the 2nd best non-QB in the draft at number 6 overall? Because at least at this point, it seems like QBs could go, look, we know they're going to go 1, 2, 3. They definitely, in Atlanta, could pick somebody to be the quarterback of the future at number 4 overall. Cincinnati really ought to draft a tackle, whether it's Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. I mean, people could have whatever one they prefer, but they need to draft somebody so that they are protecting Joe Burrow. So at that point, if you're Miami, you could say, man, I might have Kyle Pitts available. I might have Jamar Chase available. I might have Jalen Waddle available. I could have Devontae Smith available, and they need to get a little more explosive on the offensive side. So if it's somebody that, say, the Broncos, that wants to trade up and get a QB at 6, then yeah, I think you might want to go back down a little bit further, because at that point you're saying, well, I'm still going to probably pick up one of these non-QBs who is still going to be really good for me, and is going to be, one of these guys that I can depend on. But if you're talking about moving all the way down to, say, the 20s, or the mid round in the first round, then I don't know how much that would be appealing to you if you're Miami. Although then you could think about, hey, if you trade back, then you can trade up again because Miami also owns the 18th overall pick in this draft. So Miami is one of the most interesting teams, I think, that will be picking in the first round because there are so many different things they could do, so many different avenues that they could go down. And, there always is something that seems to happen within those first 10 picks, and Miami could definitely be a team to watch for that.
Miles Simmons with us, Pro Football Talk. What do you think of the Mike Tomlin extension through 2024? My contention would be, why is Tomlin in such a hurry to sign an extension? They don't have a future quarterback, and I don't know. There are times, Miles, that I feel like Mike Tomlin has been disrespected, not by the organization, but by fans and people around the league. I wonder if Tomlin actually pushed it to the point where he could shop his services. What would happen to the Steelers? Because I think there would be 4 or 5 teams that would line up to give Tomlin something beyond an extension through 2024.
You're probably right about that. Look, there's no doubt that Mike Tomlin is one of the league's best coaches. He's been the Steelers head coach since 2007, and they have not had a losing season. Okay, and Bill Belichick and Sean Payton are the only 2 guys that have had longer tenures as head coaches, and Bill Belichick is probably the greatest head coach of all time, although maybe that could be up for debate without Tom Brady. We may never know. But Sean Payton has certainly had more than one losing season down there in New Orleans, and they've also won a Super Bowl, but so is Mike Tomlin, and they've been to 2 in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I think there is something to what you're saying there about how Mike Tomlin is maybe not appreciated enough by certain fans, because look, when you've not had a losing season, I was there, like 500 is the worst that they've been, 8-8. You know how many fan bases would love to even just be 8-8 once? So I mean, the Raiders haven't been there in a really long time. So I think the fact that he probably values stability, we know that the Steelers value stability. They've had 3 head coaches since 1969, which is ridiculous. I think it's just a partnership that works.
Yeah.
And when you've been somewhere for so long and you have that comfort and you know that you have the backing of the organization like he does, Steelers are one of the best run organizations in sports. At least they have that reputation. That's why I think that Mike Tomlin says, hey, man, I don't need to go anywhere. This is my home. This is my team. And this is my system. I know exactly what this is. And there's no need to change that if we don't have to.
And you do run the risk of going to work with a buffoon as the GM, and they have a good GM, and they're good at evaluating talent. Probably one of the top 5 or 7 franchises in football in terms of reloading. All right, we got to close on a couple of interesting notes. The life of Miles.
Oh boy.
Well, first of all, what do we need an LFG on Ted Lasso? Really?
Absolutely, we do.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's probably the best show I've seen in the last year, man. It's a feel-good show. It's funny. I'm a big fan of Jason Sudeikis. Anytime we can get more Ted Lasso, yes, that is an LFG.
JVT, are you down with LFG and Ted Lasso? Do you know what Ted Lasso is?
I know what Ted Lasso is. I don't know what LFG is.
Oh, well, be careful. It's Let's Blank and Go.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's what I mean. That's pretty fiery for Ted Lasso. That's all I'm saying. Now, if you told me that Miles is going to stand up at his next karaoke performance and do some Prince, then Let's Blank and Go.
Okay, well, yes. I mean, that's something that I often do. Yes, and I did tweet that the other day.
I did see that.
Kiss is my usual go-to karaoke song by Prince, and I do usually hit the high notes. So
oh, wow.
That's, it's been a while. But, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
I never thought of Miles Simmons as, one, that risque, and I'll even go as far as saying in front of a crowd being sort of sexually provocative. Who knew?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be because I had a few libations that night, Adam Hill may or may not have witnessed a performance of that song. So you would have to ask Adam.
And you hit the high note.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Wait, did you hit it or you attempted it?
No. There's no attempt. Do or do not, right? This is the Yoda thing. There is no try. I do.
That's awesome. All right, well, go check out ProFootballTalk.com. Do you guys have official plans? You must, because you're a big-time site. I can only imagine what you guys are rolling out for the draft next week. This could be crazy. What's going on, Peacock? Give me a little promotion of PFT.
Well, we will certainly be covering everything that has to do with the draft as we do every single day. And you can catch PFT live from, I don't even know what time it would be on there. Oh, my goodness. Probably, it's a little early. But catch the replay on Peacock. And you can also catch PFT PM on Peacock from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific time every day, every weekday on the Peacock Network. I'll be there Thursday and Friday this week.
Miles, you're awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Wait, what just happened? He's a guy who was in LA for 5 years. He came to Vegas. He went to Carolina. He's now in Ohio, and the conversion of Pacific time just completely threw him off.
Well, he's a well-traveled man, but yeah, I don't really.
He didn't know where he is.
Is it harder to go east to west as it is west to east in terms of converting time?
I don't think it's hard at all. I think we're used to doing it here, but I mean it is a common problem around the country.
Well, that's just the elitism of the East Coast, right?
Yes.
Like, our time. I go by Greenwich Mean Time, so I don't know what all these clowns are going by.
The crew over at Finley Toyota speak Spanish.